Alright, you primitive screwheads, listen up. It's time for two NerdSkis and a podcast!
Next level.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, hello, and welcome to Two NerdSkis and a Podcast, the show where two NerdSkis come together and talk about everything that is pop culture and everything entertainment. This is your smooth jazz DJ, Smooth E, wishing you listeners well, and remember to stay shiny. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce your hosts, Eric and Jeff. Take it away, fellas.
All right, well, thank you, Smooth E, for that lovely introduction. Um, as he said, my name's Eric, and I've got Jeff here, and welcome back to another installment of the show.
Howdy.
And yeah, it's another exciting episode we've got here today. But how are you doing, good sir? How's things going with you?
Not too shabby. Got nothing to complain about.
Life treating you okay for the most part? Not too much shenanigans going on in your life?
I mean, given that the world is blowing up, essentially, metaphorically, I could be in a much worse position. So all I can do is continue to count my blessings.
Well, folks, just remember, life can be always worse. So be grateful, essentially, for the life you got now, because things could always turn upside down like that. But in the meantime, just live the life the best that you can, for sure. But anyway, so we are back to present you a fine new installment of the show. Jeff, what do we have today?
We have a little gem of a movie called Dark City. Dramatic reading.
What happens in this movie? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you. I was just so enticed, and yet here I am interrupting. What were you gonna say, dude? Sorry.
That was pretty much it. I've never seen this movie before. I didn't know a freaking thing about it going in. I think all I've seen in passing is the DVD cover at the video store back in the day, and just never having a second thought about it. So watching it was a very interesting experience. Finally being able to see, oh yeah, there's a movie behind that DVD case. So I will leave the plot introduction up to you because I will probably butcher it.
Okay. Well, so a little backstory behind Dark City at first. So this movie is directed by Alex Proyas. He's kind of a hit and miss in terms of directing, because he's directed some pretty good movies, and then he's directed some not good movies. If there's any indication, his last movie he directed was a little gem called Gods of Egypt.
I never saw that, but he directed Knowing, and I actually love that movie.
Really? I haven't. I've only heard like shit things about that movie. I know Nicolas Cage is in it, and it's supposed to be about escape. I mean, about the apocalypse, right?
That's part of the gist, but it actually creates a pretty interesting premise and mystery, and there's from what I remember, there's like this time capsule that an elementary school places, and it basically I haven't seen the movie in a few years, so bear with me. So this little girl who kept writing this series of numbers kind of went crazy, and many years later, the time capsule is uncovered, and Nicolas Cage's son is starting to see the same thing, and then once all the numbers are written out, it's determined that these aren't a random series of numbers. Uh, it's actually uh, a string of events that predict major disasters throughout the world, and
Okay.
it kind of takes off from there, and it's really interesting. I know a lot of people hate the ending. I'm kind of indifferent on it, but overall, I do think it's a very well made movie. It's very well acted, and I'd say it's actually pretty underrated. So I would definitely recommend that movie.
Okay. Um, that's the first time I ever heard anyone say anything positive about it. But I'm a little tempted to get into it. Okay. Um, so going further into his list, so back in 2004, he directed a little movie with Will Smith called I, Robot. That was it. I remember watching that on DVD like the same year it came out, and I was
It
really
was
intrigued by the action and whatnot. I know that stars Alan Tudyk um, in the movie. He plays the main robot, Sonny. And this was way before I discovered Firefly and Serenity. So this was the first time I ever saw Alan Tudyk in anything.
I remember iRobot being one of those movies that in the late 2000s FX would just would play
That's right. Yeah.
would play certain movies nonstop back to back, and it was always Alien versus Predator, Spider-Man 2, and fucking iRobot
Yeah. No, dude,
nonstop.
FX used to play a lot of good shit back in the day in terms of movies. A lot of them on repeat, which is how I watched a lot of movies back in the day. I mean, TNT did this. USA would occasionally do this. TBS as well, and then I know Spike would do this. Yeah, there was a lot of those movie channels that would just play movies on repeat, and by far, this was one of those movies for sure. Or at least, yeah, iRobot was one of those movies.
I think
I remember enjoying that movie too.
I've only seen the entirety of that movie once, and then from then on, which was probably in the theater, and from then on, it's been only bits and pieces on TV.
Perhaps a future review, maybe in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, fuck it, I'm down.
Um, okay, but I will. So Alex Proyas's major film that he's probably best known for was the 1994 classic The Crow, which was unfortunately the very last movie starring Brandon Lee, because that's the movie where Brandon Lee unfortunately died in a on-set accident.
I've actually never seen The Crow.
I'll
Confession.
be honest with you too. I've only seen bits and pieces of that movie on television. And that was when I was kind of interested in Brandon Lee's work. Brandon Lee, by the way, so if those of you who don't know, that's the son of Bruce Lee. And Brandon Lee had only done a couple movies in Hong Kong, and he was barely starting to like get into Hollywood films. He had done this one movie prior. He had done a couple movies prior. One of them Showdown in Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren. That's oh, I love that movie. That's a great fun time. It's so stupid, but it's so fun. And then he did this movie called Rapid Fire, which is really fun too to watch. I highly recommend that movie. Maybe I'll talk about that on this podcast as well. Haven't really figured out about that yet, but yeah, Dark City. Alex Proyas directed this movie. It came out in 1998. Um, did not really make a lot of money at the box office. It was made for 27 million. It made 27 million point two. So it made its money back, and that's about it. And
Well, I mean,
much of
if you take into account marketing and everything, it probably lost money.
oh yeah, because I was gonna say, so this is basically the Highlander thing all over again. Because so New Line Cinema, they distributed this movie. They had no idea how the fuck to distribute it. So if you watch the trailers, it was very like, what the fuck's going on? And then if let me ask you this: when you saw this at like Blockbuster or whatnot, was it in the horror section?
I think it was. It was. I think it kind of varied from store to store because I think at Blockbuster it was in the science fiction, and I think at Hollywood that's where they would stick it into the horror section.
Okay.
If I'm remembering that correctly. Like this is like 20 years ago, which is weird to say now.
Right, right. Well, yeah, this is not a horror film in the slightest. This is a science fiction noir film. So in the movie, you have here, let's see, you've got Rufus Sewell. He plays our main character, John Murdoch. The story revolves around him. He wakes up naked in a bathtub. He has no idea what's going on or
That's every
how he
morning for
got
me.
there. What's did you say? I just realized what you just said. And now all I can think of is Jeff naked getting out of a bathtub. Did you have my only
Oh,
question
damn it, not again.
That was my question.
Where's my
is,
fucking kidney?
Now I just can't get that image out of my mind anymore. This is gonna be fun. Anyways, you also have in this movie William Hurt. He plays Inspector Frank Bumstead. He's kind of the police inspector investigating a series of murders. You have Jennifer Connelly, the lovely Jennifer Connelly, playing Emma Murdoch, aka John Murdoch's wife, or so it appears. And God, every time I watch her in something, she's just fucking great. And I have to say, that's a woman that has never aged.
She
I hope
has
she
not.
never
Jennifer
ages.
Connelly is probably immortal. Like
Um,
whatever Fountain of Youth shit that she's taking, or Keanu Reeves, I want some.
did you just the way you just said Keanu Reeves? It implies that she meets up with Keanu Reeves and they exchange like I don't even know what the fuck I want to think about that. There, okay.
They exchange their Fountain of Youth formulas. Yeah, I guarantee they do.
Basically, you're saying they fuck. Never mind. This just got awkward really quickly.
I'm just leaving that awkward pause in you so that you feel very uncomfortable and the listeners feel uncomfortable.
Damn it.
You're welcome.
Damn it. Okay. Sorry there, folks.
I'm not.
So here's what I would like to discuss. Jeff, how surprised were you to see Kiefer Sutherland in this movie?
He never held a gun, and I was very sad by that.
So I should mention. So Jeff is a big fan of 24, and or as he likes to call it, the Jack Bauer Action Hour.
Jack Bauer Power Hour. Gotta
Power
remember those
Hour.
rhymes.
And I didn't watch all of 24. It just couldn't stick for me. I watched the entire first season, and then I maybe got halfway through the second season, and I just lost interest. But
season 4 is where it's at, man. Season 4 kicks ass. The main villain, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but it's the dude who played the Mummy in the Brendan Fraser
Arnold
one.
Vosloo.
Yeah,
Arnold Vosloo is a really good actor. I like.
Oh, dude, that guy's a fucking awesome.
But yeah, Kiefer Sutherland plays a character. Plays a very interesting. He plays Dr. Daniel P. Schreiber, who is a real physician back in the day, like in the 1800s, or like definitely 1800s to very early 1900s. He plays a very interesting character, I feel like. But anyways, going back to the plot. So yeah, John wakes up. He has no idea what's going on. He's trying to figure out how he got into the situation. He's being chased by a group called the Strangers, who seem to have the power to change things as they will. And John later finds out that not all as it appears to seem as it seems to be. And he's trying to unravel the mystery of what is going on behind the scenes in the dark city, if you will. So, Jeff, I will turn it over to you. So this is a reversal. This is the first time that Jeff has seen this. So, what did you think of Dark City?
I dug the shit out of it.
Was not the response I mean, that's a good response, but that's not the response I was I was expecting, really. You want to elaborate a little bit further on that?
What were you expecting?
Well, I was expecting you to go like, Well, I'll be honest. I was expecting you to be a little bit more in depth with it, but you're just like, I dug the shit out of this. I'm like, nah, that's a typical answer coming out of you, to be
Well,
honest.
because it's a very high concept movie, and my my public education brain can only comprehend so much in one sitting. So I feel like it's one of those movies that I need to definitely take a second watch on, just so I can properly take in everything. Because there were definitely moments where I'm thinking, "What the fuck is going on?"
Mm.
But in a good way, in a very good way, and uh, and on. I did intend on taking a ton of notes, just so I can actually sound like I know what I'm talking about. Uh,
Right.
but I was honestly really engrossed by the movie that I was too lazy to take notes. Or I have a few written down, but definitely not to the extent that I wanted to. But yeah, I mean, I really love this movie quite a bit. Uh, I love the. I mean, at first I was getting a little apprehensive because one of the very first shots, it's it's like it's a shot hovering over the city, and the building looked so much like a miniature. Usually I love miniatures, but when it looks obvious, it always takes me out of it. And I was it looks like a like this. My very first impression was, oh my god, this looks like a rejected Tim Burton Gotham City model. But shortly after that, it definitely turned everything around. And once the plot kicked into gear, it just kept getting better and better. And a majority of the shots looked like a work of art in a way. There was such
Yeah.
care. There was such care and attention crafted into nearly every shot, and I love the variety of camera angles that's always given. The lighting always looks on point. In terms of film noir. This is a phenomenal example of it, and clearly there's a talented director behind this movie. So I'm shocked he goes from this to fucking Gods of Egypt.
Yeah, it's kind of a wonder that he went from like making some pretty good hits to that. I don't know what the fuck that movie is. By the way, I remember I watched at least maybe the first 10 minutes, and I was already entertained by how Gerard Butler just not does not give a fuck about his performance. Just gonna be like, all right, I'm here. I'm playing the villain in this movie. Let's
Dude,
do this.
Gerard Butler has such a weird career. He's both in very good movies, and then he's also in the most forgettable trash ever. And then sometimes he's just in very entertaining trash. But he's in a lot of trash.
Which is sad because this guy is actually like a damn good actor. It's a shame that
He no,
he's
he's
getting
definitely
some shit work.
he's definitely a talented guy, but man, he doesn't make the best movie choices. Uh,
No.
I heard the one he just did recently. I think it was like a disaster movie of some kind. What
Oh
the hell
yeah,
is
I
it?
know. I know this movie. I know
Yeah,
this movie you're talking about.
what the hell is it called? That's gonna bug me now. Here, say something engaging so that we still sound like professionals.
Well, what I was. Oh Jesus, where the fuck is that echo coming from? Okay, what I was going to say is
Greenland.
that. What?
I found the movie I was looking for. Greenland.
Oh yeah, Greenland. Yeah, no, I know the movie. No. How I know this is because Chris Stugman did his review on that movie, and it was what I found interesting is that it's a very interesting perspective of a disaster from from not the world, but just a small town alone.
Oh, Marina Bar Barkarin. I always butcher her last name.
Oh, Miranda
Anar
Bakarin.
Anara from Firefly.
She's also Vanessa in Deadpool. Just FYI.
She'll always be Anara.
Yes, she will. and I will always. I mean, what are you talking about? I thought Kaylee was your woman. I thought Jewel State was your woman.
I can have multiple.
Okay, never mind. Going back to Dark City then.
It's the verse.
Yes, it is. So,
Rules
but
don't
yeah,
apply.
Dark City's it's very influenced by a lot of older films and especially film noir and a lot of like German expressionism. So it's very surreal in its approach. Very much a character study of like what is it that makes us human, and like is it our memories that makes us human, or is it like the little small things that make us human? That sort of thing. I don't know if you paid attention, Jeff, when you were watching this, but so still within the opening of the movie, so when John first leaves the hotel, he meets that he comes across the hotel clerk, and then obviously the strangers manipulate things so that it's a different hotel clerk, but he comes across the same guy at a newspaper stand, and I don't know if you noticed, but he says the same thing as he did, that we the audience know. He says that like uh, no good behavior, something about good behavior in work or whatnot. um, no reward for good. Oh yeah, no reward for good behavior, I think is the line. I do not remember something with good behavior, but it makes you wonder like is it our memories, or is it just the smaller things or whatnot? The other thing, so I know, have you seen Metropolis by any chance?
In a film class, yeah.
Okay, so when you watched this, did you get a Metropolis kind of vibe to it? Because it's very much influenced by that movie
I
too.
definitely did. And another vibe I got, which I didn't expect. Uh, all the what are they aliens or something?
So yeah, the strangers, the way that it's explained is that the strangers are extraterrestrials who use corpses as their hosts. They're essentially a dying race. They're looking for ways. They're very much a hive mentality, and they experiment with humans to kind of analyze their individuality, kind of in the hopes that they might find a way to save their own species.
And they all dress like Tom Hardy from Star Trek Nemesis.
I was gonna say they dress more like the Cenobites from Hellraiser.
That yeah, actually, okay, yeah. It okay, so half Cenobite, half Tom Hardy from Star Trek Nemesis.
Okay, quick aside. I don't think Star Trek Nemesis is that bad. Definitely not the best way to end the Star Trek Next Generation series of films, but I do think Tom Hardy is one of the best parts about that movie.
I saw it once, like 10 years ago. All I remember is a Dune Boogie chase scene, and it continued.
That is kind of out of left field, that scene, I will admit. It really was just there to create an action scene. But as we all know, Star Trek's not supposed to be about action. But then again,
Well, J.J.
we'll
Abrams
leave that
did not get the memo on that.
we'll leave that discussion for another time then. But yeah, the strangers are very much that's their goal. They're trying to discover what is it that makes up a human soul, if you will. Um, and they again, yeah, the way they have the ability to tune, or as I like to call telekinesis on steroids. They also have kind of like reality manipulating powers, or more, or no, they use their telekinesis to warp the city, if you will, to benefit their experiments. Or because, like I said, they'll set up scenarios for humans to so they can study how they work, and then the way they change people's personalities around is that they've created the technology to uh, create false memories or new memories, if you will, and that's how they're able to see how people will interact or whatnot. And they have Dr. Schraber, played by Kiefer Sutherland, who is kind of like he's like their unwilling slave. He kind of just go. He's the only one who kind of has his own free will or whatnot, outside of the rest of the populace and John Murdoch. Um, and so he's the one who administers the memories every time they change something. And then John, it's kind of interesting how John works. They never fully explain how, but John, because they do, because you do see that John's not the only one who's awoken. There's a police detective named Eddie Walensky who it seems like he's paranoid, but the truth is he's actually the most sane one in the entire city outside of John. Um, and he realizes that the world he's in is like completely fake, and so so like every time you see all these different like drawings in his office or whatnot, it's actually because he's trying to really figure out the truth behind what's going on. It's almost like it's almost like kind of seeing how like conspiracy theories are like, what's this and how's this connect and how's this connect and how's this connect and how's this connect. Reminds me of some people I know, to be honest.
This okay, like it just kind of clicked with me. This is like a really this is like a sci-fi noir version of Truman Show.
Oh my god, I had not thought of that. I was I was thinking more in terms of the Matrix, to be honest.
Did what year did Truman Show come out? Because I swear that was
So the
90.
Truman Show, oh god, I want no, that wasn't 93. That okay, when did the Truman Show come out? In the
Because I know
meantime, ba,
Truman
ba,
Show
ba,
was late
ba.
90s.
90. Oh, it came out the
98.
same year.
Oh shit.
It came out. Well, here's the question: which movie came first? So,
Let's see.
so
So Truman Show came out June 5th of 98.
Dark City came out in February 27th of 98.
So I guess 98 was just the year of doubting your own reality.
Dude,
And then Matrix sure shit didn't help with that.
dude, I remember I after watching the Truman Show, I looked up that apparently there was a phenomenon going around where people started going crazy and they really thought they were living in a Truman-esque like reality, and that the world we lived in was completely fake. Which is crazy. I mean, then again, there is that question of what is real and what not. And it's very prevalent in this movie. One of the things what I really liked is that the concept of you know how there's all those spirals and stuff, and the emphasis on the fingerprints, because everyone's fingerprint is always different from everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
It is your own unique signature, if you will. So John's trying to figure out like what is it that makes him himself. There's a great scene I like. So like John, he's walking out in the street before he realizes his name is John, because he hasn't looked at his wallet yet because his wallet's at the automat. So he's kind of just like, so, what's your name? Murdoch? Murdoch. Hi. Jack Murdoch. Jay? Jerry? John? How you doing, Jack Murdoch? He just talks in a mirror, and then, and then like he just sees this guy just looking at him weirdly and just like, okay, and just walks the fuck away. This is it's a fascinating, like I said, it's a very fascinating look into what makes us human. I can't say that I feel like I've emphasized that so much. What? Tell me, Jeff. What were some things that you really liked in this?
Well, like I mentioned, the shot structure, the cinematography, just in general, like uh, it's one of those movies that I wouldn't mind just having on my TV play in the background and just occasionally just look at it just to admire the visual style. But I also really I thought the acting was really good. I really dug the twist, and at first I didn't know what to make of it, but as the movie progressed, I mean, fuck it, we're spoiling the whole movie anyway. So it turns
This
out
is our
this
show, after all.
exactly. So if you have not seen Dark City, well, you've had over 20 years, so that's kind of on you. So it turns out the city is not a city; it's a motherfucking spaceship.
Kind of. I mean, it's like a floating city in space, I guess
It
is the
looks
best
like
way to
it
describe
looks
it.
like if the main city in Blade Runner and Cloud City had a kid.
mixed in with some film noir and Metropolis would be my other like suggestions.
Yeah, pretty much. And that I don't know, like I haven't really seen that done before, and I thought that was a really unique approach. Is this based off a novel or anything,
No,
or
so fascinating. So interesting story. So when he was writing the story, Proyas, when he came up with the story, apparently he shopped it around, but everyone told him like this felt too much like a novel. So he got two screenwriters to help him out to flesh it into an actual screenplay. So he got Lem Dobbs, who's written. He's written another. I guess his best known work outside of this would be the Limely, and then he. Oh, I guess he also did some uncredited revisions for the SWAT movie in 2003. But oh, he also wrote and co-produced Gotti.
uh,
And then
Movie
you're really
Pass
not.
presents Gotti?
And then you're really not, Jeff. You're really not gonna like who also co-wrote this movie with Proyas.
Oh no.
David
Oh.
Esquire. Wow, you're going on, trailing on like that. Well, to be fair, I mean, sure, a lot of people give him shit for writing Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, but it's because of him that we got Blade and we also got the Dark Knight trilogy. And of course, he also said some pretty fucked up shit about She-Hulk, so we'll just leave it there. That's pretty much your answer. That's pretty much how Jeff feels about David Esquire. Real quick. Going back to the actual movie. So, quick question for you. It kind of sounds like to me you watched a certain version of the movie that I think you watched, but when you watched the opening of the movie, it there was no open. Was there any opening narration by any chance?
No, it kind of just dropped you in.
Okay, good. So the version you watched is the director's cut. So that's Alex Proyas's intended version of the film.
Okay, yeah, because
Um,
I didn't know there were two versions of the movie until after I started watching. So I
yeah.
honestly I didn't know which one I watched.
So unfortunately, how I first know about this movie is because when I used to watch Nostalgia Critic, he reviewed the Matrix films and he mentioned Dark City in there. And there is a lot of like unfortunate like comparisons to Dark City and the Matrix. It's just inevitable, pun intended, because that is a word that Agent Smith uses. But so the way I finally watched it was the very first day of my advanced film theory course when I was in college. Um,
That's the most hipster thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately, isn't it? But the way I watched it was in that course. It was the very first film ever in that course. Um, we unfortunately watched the theatrical cut, and it had the opening narration in it. The reason why the opening narration is in there is because New Line Cinema went to Alex Proyas and went, people are not going to know what the fuck is going on in this movie. Can you please can you make Kiefer do like a little voiceover to kind of introduce what the
So it
hell's going on?
so it sounds like what happened to Blade Runner when they awkwardly made Harrison Ford do those narrations
Didn't
throughout.
Harrison Ford just sound like he was not having it at all during those
Oh yeah, no,
narrations?
like no, just listen to it. It sounds like he had more
I
fun.
have. I
I mean,
have. That was the first time I ever watched Blade Runner 2 was with those narrations, unfortunately.
oh, I'm so sorry.
I know.
Yeah, it's by the sound of his voice, it looked like he had a more fun time being in the holiday special.
It's funny you mentioned the narrations for Blade Runner. I hate to call him out, but Galen, what the fuck, dude? because Galen really likes Galen really likes the voiceover narration for Blade Runner. But then again, I think that's the version he
What?
watched first. Yeah, it's the version he watched first.
So there's like 5 cuts, right? Because I've only seen.
I mean, there's like, I mean, yeah, there's that. There's like some fan cut that was made,
Well,
and
fan
then
fan edits don't count.
no, they don't. And then there was a director's cut, and then there was a final cut, and the final cut is the version that everyone should watch because
The
that's
director's
really
cut and then the final cut. It's like
kind of
this
an
is my
oxymoron,
definitive cut.
isn't
No,
it?
no, no. This is my final cut. It's like
It's kind of
really
like how
fucking mind.
like Watchmen has like 3 versions. It has the theatrical cut, there's the director's cut, and then there's the ultimate cut. And but
Jesus.
yeah, because the ultimate cut includes everything that's in the original story. Because when Watchmen was first when they released Watchmen, they released obviously there was the director's cut that came afterwards, but there was an animated movie called Tales of the Black Freighter that was supposed to be serving as a parallel to what was going on in the story in Watchmen, and that was released as a separate animated movie. So what they did in the Ultimate Cut is that they just incorporated the animated movie into the director's cut, and that's how you get the Ultimate Cut.
So they just edit the two together.
Pretty much. That's to give the official overall feeling of the original graphic novel. To be fair.
Okay.
Um,
Uh.
Although it's interesting, Zack Snyder says that the version he prefers is the director's cut, so that means watching the ultimate cut's pointless, apparently.
So I guess not to strain too far. Uh, just since it's we're talking Zack Snyder and alternative cuts. What the fuck do you think about the Snyder cut?
Um, well, let me ask you first, because let me ask you first. You never truly answered a question to me. Uh, for the listeners, I mean, because it's funny. You've always said to me that you've never really like you like that Snyder is a great visual storyteller, but he's not the best at
So
a
so Zack
plot.
so Zack Snyder, for the most part, I don't like his movies. I think he has an interesting style, and he seems like a good dude. But just as a storyteller, I think he can be pretty fucking self indulgent to the point where it's the worst type of pretentiousness in movies where you think you're a genius with your subtleties and your subtext, but the way you're delivering it is so on the nose and obvious that it requires no major critical thinking skills to actually convey what you're trying to present. And I think one of the best examples is Man of Steel. Like, there's like 10 scenes in there of Superman is Jesus. And it's like when you have a scene where he's like floating out of the ship with the light behind him and his arms like stretched out. It's like, fuck off, movie.
Yeah,
uh,
so let's just be clear. Jeff's not a fan, but
yeah, so
what
I
really
hate.
surprised me. That being said, I'm surprised by what you have to say about the. Even though, so at the time of this recording, we are about at least a month or two of like 40 something odd weeks away from the Snyder Cut, and I was very surprised by what Jeff has to say about the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, so basically, I hate Man of Steel. I fucking hate Batman versus Superman. And the version that the version of Justice League that got released in theaters was a catastrophe. But it was a case where I could it it's one of the defining examples of studio interference. And when you watch it, you can just tell what was Zack Snyder and what was Joss Whedon. And the movie itself was just a complete train wreck. And then the rumors started coming out that there was a different cut of Justice League out there, and it had scenes like Black Suit Superman, that uh, what the fuck's his name,
There were
Steppenwolf.
extended scenes of Cyborg,
Yeah,
like
like
that really
yeah,
fleshed
yeah,
into his
uh,
character.
yeah. Cyborg got more scenes, so it just sounded like a completely different movie. And at first I was hesitant, but then Zack Snyder kept tweeting out, just little images of what were clearly deleted scenes, and then the whole online movement started buzzing after that.
God,
And
I gave up so much after. Can I just be real quick? I mean, as much as I leading up to the official announcement, I was just like, dude, like it fucking let it go. I mean, like if the Snyder cut happens, just it happens. It really should have been done like right after. It really should have been released right after the movie. I mean, I'm glad it's finally coming out, but God, I just
well, I mean,
hated like all that
it.
shit.
I mean, it wouldn't have been made unless, or it wouldn't have been finished unless the actual demand was there.
And I
Because
know, and
and
I
the only
know.
and the only reason that it even got greenlit was because of the acquisition from AT&T, who was looking to make content for HBO Max to draw in to draw in potential subscribers. And if that didn't happen, then there's no way that it would have been greenlit, because doing that is basically an admission of defeat on behalf of Warner Brothers.
Hmm.
Because it would be like the Rise of Skywalker, for example. If when you watch that movie, it just seems like it was hacked in the editing room, and you feel like there's missing scenes and subplots, and it just feels like a very incomplete movie. And if there was proof of different extended scenes of throughout the movie that wouldn't have saved it, but would have at least provided better context and a more streamlined plot, then I would at least be open to seeing it. But the difference is Disney's never going to be bought out by anyone. So if there are missing scenes like that, you're never going to see them, because Disney
Hmm.
will never admit defeat like that. So I'm mostly fascinated by the Snyder Cut, not because I think the product itself will be a great work of art, or that, oh my god, I've seen the light. I was wrong. I was wrong about the DCEU all this time. It's actually Zack Snyder's actually a magical genius. No, not at all. It'll probably still suck, but it's one of those things that I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad that it came into existence because of passionate fans that made their voices loud and clear. And so I think it's a testament to what can be accomplished if fans can pull together and get behind something. And so I'm going to watch it just because it actually exists now. And I think it's I don't think it should be applied to every movie. I think David Ayer was saying that he wants to release his cut of Suicide Squad. It's like, I
No,
don't
that
fucking
movie's a complete turd. That movie will
I don't
never be
fucking
saved.
care.
No, that movie will never be saved.
But at least with Justice League, there's at least elements to it that I am interested in seeing. Because I want to see Black Suit Superman. I mean, even though I don't like Man of Steel, I like Henry Cavill as Superman. So I want to see what was cut out. I like Ben Affleck as Batman. I feel bad that he kept getting trapped in these shitty movies and never really had the chance to actually shine. So will it be good? Probably not, but I'm interested. And
Mm.
coming from someone who hated most of these movies to begin with, I never thought I would expect to say that, but uh, yeah, that is my thoughts on the Snyder Cut in this podcast episode talking about Dark City,
Well,
because
but it
that's
brings
what we do.
right, but it brings up a good point though, in the fact that like again, Alex Proyas got screwed in the ass because New Line Cinema really were trying to find a way to market this movie and really try to get people to watch this movie and not like try and figure out what was going on. And so, you know, that's why that version, the theatrical version, exists, because New Line Cinema, it sounded like, to me at least, maybe didn't really have a lot of hope for this picture. And so they decided the best way to like entice people was just to spoil the movie at the very fucking beginning, and therefore we have that theatrical cut. Yeah, and so I'm very glad that because I don't know when the director's cut came out. I think it came out. Actually, it came out in 2008. Surprisingly, okay. So 10 years after its release, did a director's cut come out, and I'm glad that we got to see the intended version. I really wish that was the version I saw, because I really didn't want to. As much as I love a narration by Kiefer Sutherland, it would have been best to have tried and figure out the mystery for itself, because that's what good filmmaking is. Is like if it encaptures, or if it hooks you and sinks you, then you're just really fascinated and just really into the story. So to have it spoiled for you is just a big what the fuck.
Did uh did you ever see Event Horizon?
I know about that story. I have not, but I do know that there's another version of that film exists, but most of that footage got destroyed in a fire.
Yeah, because I think the footage was not stored away properly, and the film stock is very flammable,
Ugh,
and
that sucks.
and when it I think when Event Horizon was coming out, I think it was originally like 2.5 hours long, and they just had to hack away at the movie in like weeks leading up to its premiere, and thankfully I mean the movie itself I think is awesome. It's
It's one of
I,
the few Paul W.S. Anderson movies that actually is good,
it's the one movie of
aside from
his
the first Mortal Kombat film.
I still haven't seen that actually.
Have you not really seen that movie?
I
Oh, I gotta
haven't.
get you. I gotta get you to watch that movie, especially because I kind of want to talk about that movie before the new one comes out. So I really would like to discuss it at
Where
some
the
point.
fuck's the trailer for that movie? It comes out in like 3 weeks.
I know, right? I'm really kind of fuck. I really want to see that movie
Does
so
this
badly
actually
too.
exist? I mean, at least with that one, with that movie, like at least we weren't dick teased with the trailer as much as Godzilla versus Kong. I mean, thankfully, when that trailer finally dropped, it was a great trailer. But
Mhm.
man, that was the longest wait for a trailer that I've ever experienced.
I mean, the only things we've seen for Mortal Kombat are like some footage for HBO Max's
Yeah,
like catalog,
like
and then like we've
like
seen
2 second clips.
yeah, and then we've seen some stills. But so far, I like what I see. I would just like to see a full fucking trailer. Thank you very much.
Is it going to be R?
It's got to be, because I hear they're going to include fatalities, like proper
Okay, yeah,
fatalities.
I was gonna say if they finally rebooted Mortal Kombat and made it PG-13 again, it's like you
Well,
didn't learn a fucking thing.
what I'm more excited about is that Scorpion and Sub-Zero are actually going to be proper characters instead of just side characters that they were, or just like people that, characters that the main characters have to fight or whatnot.
Isn't
But
isn't the I'm blanking on his name, but he was the Black Power Ranger in the 2017
yeah,
Power
Ludi
Ranger.
Lin, yeah, he plays Liu Kang in the new
Okay, yeah, I
movie.
was gonna say that's solid casting.
He does kind of look like Liu Kang too, so I'll give him props for that. But okay, back to see what we're talking about, folks. We just
This is the
you get
most
into one
sidetracked
topic and you just
episode
get right
ever.
into it. Yep. But
And I thought Tremors 3 was a clusterfuck review.
spoiler alert. Spoiler. Oh, by the way, we record episodes simultaneously, so that's just a little preview of what Tremors 3 is going to be like. But then again, we'll just get to that point when it gets there. But what I would like to kind of discuss a little bit is, did you pay attention to a little bit of the score in this movie in Dark City?
I did, yes.
What isn't it pretty fucking awesome, or pretty
It
fucking epic?
it is. I mean, like, I need to listen to it by itself, just because I was really engaged with can't talk right now. I was really engaged with the story,
Uh-huh.
and I was mostly just trying to. I was admiring the cinematography, so I needed to definitely go back and just listen to the score by itself. And I think Oliver Harper did a review on this, so I'm probably gonna try
Yeah,
to
so Oliver
watch that
Harper in
later.
his retrospective said that the soundtrack is kind of pretty much, I think out of it's out of date, but you can still find like the score on YouTube. And if you go on eBay, be prepared to ante up quite a bit from what I understand.
It's one of those.
Yeah, it's so the score was done by Trevor Jones, longtime film score.
Oh shit!
Film,
What he
yeah.
he
I just realized he did the score for Labyrinth, which also stars Jennifer Connelly.
he composed Dinotopia.
Oh, he did.
Yes, he did. That's actually one of my favorite scores of all time.
Is it? Because I really enjoy this score for Dark City. It's like it's very bombastic in its approach. So like when John fights fights the strangers, at least the head stranger at the very end, like goes dun 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 dun. It's almost like a dark, it's almost like a bombastic Batman score. Like if a Batman score was more epic sounding than what Danny Elfman or Christopher Nolan, I mean Hans Zimmer, did, it would be this bombastic. It would be
Oh,
this
totally.
big. Um, by the way, so I know they used when they did the trailers for The Matrix. I think some of the music was used for Dark City in the trailer spots.
Like they took music from Dark City, used it
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Matrix. Oh,
because I
okay.
think I think Dark City's soundtrack has been used in quite a few trailers as well for other movies. Side note, so The Matrix, we're going to be talking about The Matrix quite a bit right now, but The Matrix was obviously came out a year after Dark City, and you obviously will see a lot of parallels in there in terms of like what it means to be human and whatnot, and is the reality we live in real or fake? But I thought this was a side note. So, um, the rooftop scenes or the rooftop sets when John is running across the rooftops, a lot of those rooftop sets are used in the Matrix, at least in the opening is where the opening of the Matrix when Trinity is being chased by the agents and the cops. So those are reused rooftop sets from Dark City.
The more you know.
Dun 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 dun.
Ta-da!
Um, but yeah, okay. In terms of characters, I really, I feel like, um, yeah, the acting in this movie is pretty solid overall for the most part. I think the best performance is probably Kiefer Sutherland, to be honest. Like I mean, I'm used to seeing Kiefer Sutherland play like some pretty hardcore characters. I mean, obviously I forget what his name is in The Lost Boys, but he's such a good, he's usually playing the bad guy or like hardcore antiheroes. Obviously
You've
best
seen
known.
Stand by Me, right?
Yeah, dude, he was such a dick in that movie, but he was
Dude,
a
he was shit your pants scary in that movie at certain points.
he was a good bad guy in that movie, to be fair. And then of course, if you watch 24, obviously did let me ask you, did he win Emmy? Did he get nominated at least for any Emmys for that show?
I'm sure he must have. I mean the fucking show was on for 8 seasons.
And then they had at least like one spin-off season
Or
and
yeah, so
then continuations.
they had like a limited series where Kiefer Sutherland came back. I hated that. The way it ended pissed me off so much. And then they tried to do a straight up spin-off with a different lead actor, and I think it was Corey Hawkins. Corey Hawkins is a great actor, but I think I watched the first episode and it just felt like same shit, different day. And
I think the only person that returned from the original series was it was like this one agent that apparently went bad. Am I
yeah,
right?
Tony Almeida was the character name.
Mm,
Yeah, there was yeah, actually throughout the series, he goes through a really interesting character arc, and he was one of my favorite characters on the show.
hmm
But I mean, I don't know. Without Jack, it just kind of felt like a cheap cash in.
Well,
So
I think that goes to show that Kiefer Sutherland has a very unique screen presence. It doesn't matter what kind of character he plays. It's just the what he just brings to the table alone makes or breaks the movie, or at least the moments. Because when he plays Daniel Schreiber, I am just convinced that he is just this creepy, kind of broken shell of a man who still has his scientific expertise, but the strangers have just beaten the fuck out of him so much that he just wants to find a way to like destroy them. And so when John figures out a way to tune, or discovers his ability to tune, he's like, this is his chance to really kind of like escape the strangers and just destroy them finally, for taking away everything that he knew and loved and whatnot, or potentially. um that that's a very creepy performance. Not creepy, but there just a
different.
almost uncomfortable, very different. Like I said, I mean, the last thing I ever saw, or last thing with anything that I saw or played with, was Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, and Kiefer Sutherland came into voice Solid Snake, or no, not Solid Snake, Big Boss, essentially,
Oh,
in that game.
badass.
Yeah. Although I mean, don't get me wrong, I love David Hayter, but I thought Kiefer Sutherland just brought a whole new like gravitas to that role. There's a twist to that too, but I'll get to that whenever we talk about Metal Gear. I think that Jennifer Connelly she has a special, unique innocence to her. She's very much a even though it she you get the sense that like even she's like not totally convinced that she's married to him, because I don't know if you noticed this, but remember when she first meets Detect Inspector Bumstead, and she's like playing with the ring finger as if it's not supposed to be there. So she
Uh huh.
kind of subconsciously, she knows that she's not married, but somehow somehow her feelings for John are real, in a sense. Like she genuinely does care about him. And then leading to John himself, what a fascinating like journey for him, like to figure out like his whole life is a lie, that's been fabricated just for an experiment. Oh, by the way, Jeff, I have a very important question for you.
What's that?
Do you know Shell Beach?
Yeah, I know Shell Beach.
Do you know how to get there?
Uh... okay, I will say, I probably the one of the big oh shit moments for me was was the first time it struck midnight and everything and everyone just comes to a screeching halt and falls asleep. The
And
way the
then
way the way John is just trying to he's just like
wake
running
everyone
around
up.
like
Mhm.
doesn't know what the fuck is going on, and he's like screaming at people like
It's like,
wake
wake
up.
up,
It's
wake
like
up.
that the way that was done, like the way everything just stops, and it was
That's
so
brilliant filmmaking.
that was creepy, man. And the way it just picks right back up like nothing ever happened.
Right. And then in that time, he sees, so in that time, so during that time, he sees that like there's this couple that are like down on their luck and whatnot. And then when the strangers come in and change everything, they're now wealthy. They now live in some like fucking like rich, wealthy, small mansion. And they're like, well, I'm finally stopped working on the night shifts and whatnot. And now he's like,
I will say
well,
their acting was balls.
it was kind of bland acting. Oh, by the way, you could totally tell those actors were ADR'd for sure.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's like their entire delivery. It I felt like I was in my acting 101 class all over again. I'm like, oh no, I thought I escaped this.
Well, the whole point is you're supposed to be believable. Like the way you deliver a line, you have to really, and you have to say it with intent. I don't think I bought that one moment.
No, and I mean, I love the scene it's just it's just those two actors in particular. Like their delivery was so off, and it kind of took away a little bit from the gravitas of the scene, at least for me, because I'm the asshole that tries to pick apart any or all details. Uh,
Speaking of details, then, how did you feel about? So remember, this is 1998.
yes,
CGI is still very much in its early stages, kind of. I mean,
post. I mean, definitely post Jurassic Park. Like Jurassic Park is like is like the pinnacle, and then uh pretty much if you're trying to determine CGI, Jurassic Park is kind of the gold standard. I think either that or Terminator 2. So like whenever you're talking CGI, you kind of, at least like my instinct is to compare it to either those two movies. Like if
yeah,
it
no, no, yeah, because like, I mean, what Terminator 2 came in what 92, and that
91.
movie 91. That movie still fucking holds up, especially for the CGI alone. And then obviously Jurassic Park.
How sad is it that the CGI in Dark Fate doesn't look anywhere near as good as Terminator 2?
I forget. Oh yeah. Well, to be fair, I didn't see Terminator Dark Fate for
Just
good
looking at the
reason.
trailers, man, it's like, God, that CGI was balls.
I'm sure it did. I mean, um, yeah. The CGI though, I think it's passable for what it is. It's very blatant though in your face, the CGI.
Yeah,
But
and
it's but
and like I
luckily
said
it's not
earlier,
used much.
and like I said earlier, some of the model work was a little wonky.
But but you do agree though that the design of the city
Oh yeah, no, like
is
the
very
like
unique.
yeah, the actual design of the city is fantastic, and but it's just at least in the beginning, it got better as it progressed,
Mhm.
uh, but there were definitely some uh I'm not sure if it was just the way it was filmed or the way it was lit or the way the kind of lenses they were using. Just the way some of those shots were presented. I don't know. I had the this was pointed directly at a model type of vibes off of
Was it the very first kind of like zoom in shot of the hotel that John's staying
Yeah,
at? Okay.
yeah.
That
That
does
was
kind of stand out a bit, I will admit.
Yeah, that was a major one for me, and a few throughout. But as the movie progressed, it was definitely a lot less blatant, and I was able to look past it.
Yeah, no, it by far, it's by far, I think that's what makes it. I mean, again, this is another situation of practicals and CGI. I think the practicals are really great. I really enjoy the miniature work. Like because it's gonna hold up pretty well, especially when you add like the monotone kind of color, the singular kind of colors for the noir esque feeling, along with the German expressionism that goes along with it. Um, by the way, speaking of editing or just pacing wise, so I don't know if you noticed this, but it was brought to my attention when there's a YouTube channel I follow called Off the Shelf Reviews. There are these two guys named Gary and Ian out of the UK, and they reviewed this movie and they mentioned that each shot is only lasts a maximum of like 7 seconds, and then it like cuts to the next
Interesting.
shot. Yeah, it's kind of like, you know how like sometimes how memories will just come and go as they please, I guess, if you will. Um, I'm not sure what it was, but I just thought that was a fascinating editing choice in that matter. But I mean, I think this movie is very well paced for its
I
premise.
do too, because I think because I'm because usually high concept sci-fi movies like this, they'll try to have over long run times, and very few are actually justified in that long run time. Like I feel Blade Runner 2049 is a good example. Very long movie, but I feel like the story itself justifies the runtime, and if this movie tried to pull something similar, where it was well over 2.5 hours, then it would have definitely overstayed its welcome. But I feel this movie gets right to the point. It does a really good job at introducing you to the world, the environment, and I like movies that just drop you in the thick of a situation, and you're
especially something like this too.
yeah, absolutely, and
Which again, I don't mean to interrupt, but again, it just goes back to that point I addressed earlier where I really wish I had watched the director's cut of this film instead of like being unfortunately watching the theatrical cut and having the movie pretty much spoiled in a narrative voiceover. Um,
yeah, I'm kind of glad that I mean, because again, I didn't know there were two versions, so I'm glad the one I happened to watch happened to be the good version.
hmm. um,
But yeah,
yeah,
but
go
like
ahead.
yeah, like I was saying, when a movie is just able to drop you in the middle of a situation, you don't know what's going on. You feel just as confused as the lead protagonist. It's I feel like that's a good way to get attached to that character, and then you just watch the mystery unfold from there. And as it goes on, you're just seeing more of the world, and the fact that they're able to do this in an hour and 45, tell a good story, build a good world, and not overstay its welcome, I think adds a lot to rewatch value.
Hmm.
And even though, like I said earlier, I love Blade Runner 2049, but I'm not rewatching it every few months or something, just because it's so fucking long.
Which it
and
is.
and you can definitely enjoy the experience, but putting in the runtime, you basically have to plan ahead for that. But a movie
Hmm.
like this, you can definitely get a genuinely strong sci-fi noir experience to the highest standard, and still and but just experience it at a standard film runtime, which I think benefits this movie greatly.
How'd you feel about the production design? I didn't. I meant to ask you this earlier, but like, so they kind of, so Schraber kind of mentions that like, that they're just kind of plucked that they're not really sure where they come from. Obviously, it sounds like they come from Earth, but it seems it's not really sure when from Earth they were all these people were plucked out of. But um, I like the idea that like the world looks like weird a weird noirish version of Earth. Like it's a mixture of at least the 20, no, at least like the 30s till like the 60s with a little blend of like a little hint of like modern clothing here and there. Like not very
That's
much. The
kind
only
of
time I noticed the only time I saw modern clothing was like some people wearing hoodies in the subway
well,
scenes.
that's kind of what I liked is that there's almost like I mean, once the twist is revealed, that kind of leaves a sense of ambiguity, where you don't really know where or when these people were plucked from Earth, and you don't really know what kind of world that they were left or that they left. It could have just been normal, or it could have been a dystopian shithole. And
Hmm.
I think the best sci-fi stories leave just enough open to where you're able to make your own interpretation, and I think that kind of leaves a better lasting impression. If you go back and think, you try to fill in the gaps yourself, and I think that I don't know. I like when a story is able to do that, where it's
It
still
lets you think for yourself and
it
try and
leaves it
figure it
leaves
out.
you it leaves you with plenty, but not everything is filled in, and
Hmm.
so the rest is up to you. And I like when movies pull that.
Well, no, it's good because like it makes you think, and and it offers for more future watches or future revisits or whatnot. That I think that's the those are the marks of a good movie where it makes you want to rewatch it again to get another like uh sense of like, okay, so I got this and I got this, let's rewatch again. Okay, I got that, I got that. Okay, let's do this again. And then you slowly piece it all together and you're like, oh, so that's how this movie works. Okay, that's like I said, that's another high mark of good filmmaking. Like this is very unique in terms of that. Because I actually just this last time that I rewatched it, I noticed some new things too. I'm trying to remember what it was specifically, but um, I think it was, I think it was shit. What was it? I know I definitely picked something up, but fuck. I may not be able to remember it, but I know I for sure I definitely picked something up rewatching this. But yeah, it's such a, it's very stylistic in his choice. I kind of want to. We briefly mentioned that they're half Cenobite and half Tom Hardy from, or half Shinzon, if you will. But how did you feel about the Strangers overall? Like, what? How did you feel about their concept?
Well, first off, fuck that creepy little kid. And
That's true. That kid was a fucking little creepy kid, wasn't he?
uh, I mean, I like them a lot. They right off the bat they had an intimidating presence. You knew that they weren't ones to be fucked with, and just through Kiefer Sutherland's mannerisms, he's terrified being around them. Like he kind of knows that one wrong thing said or done, then he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and I think that they're able to still create that menacing persona without anyone going over the top, without anyone overstepping the boundaries. Like they find just the right amount of intimidating and a little over the top. But being that being that they're a dying race, I think helps add an extra layer to making them a little more interesting, where it's not just good guys versus bad guys. It's like it's a little more complicated than that, and I think because it would have been so easy to just make them generic bad guys, and I'm glad this movie took a more interesting route to actually fleshing out the villains and giving them a legitimate motivation to what they're doing, even though it's from a human's perspective it seems like it's terrible. But if you were in their shoes, they're just looking to survive.
I
and
had never really thought of it that way before, but it definitely makes sense.
and I think uh yeah, so I think that's kind of what makes the movie just overall more interesting is uh because going back to Blade Runner, you have countless metaphors of humanity, and that I feel like a majority of that is centered on why am I blanking? Rutger Hauer. I almost forgot his name. Uh, part of his entire character arc is wanting to live, and instead of like the final his final moment of choosing to do a very human thing by saving Harrison Ford, it like that alone made him such a more engaging villain rather than just being generic bad guy that Harrison Ford has to fight. When
Mm.
you're so whether it's tackling artificial life or extraterrestrial of some kind, when you're actually given the chance to hop into their side of it, I always find that more engaging than just simple bad guy
Simple,
stuff.
just villains or whatnot.
Yeah, just so pretty much like
Huh.
90% of the MCU villains.
Yeah.
just
At least the DC villains are memorable. At least the Joker.
it depends part of DC you're pulling from.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, fine. Jesus, that's
Bruce Wayne meets Clark Kent.
I knew you were gonna pull a Jesse Eisenberg in there. Okay. What I oh fuck, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, I was just thinking of the Tears in the Rain monologue. That's a beautiful monologue.
Apparently, I think Rutger Hauer improvised all that.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking it up here. There's an entire Wikipedia article just dedicated to that monologue.
God damn.
um, what I was gonna say about there's a character. One of the more memorable characters is one of the strangers. It's Mr. Hand, and Mr. Hand, when they imprint the intended memories for John Murdoch, becomes very satisfyingly like delicious as a villain. Apparently, his actor Richard O'Brien is a very like popular actor back in the UK. I know Oliver Harper and the guys on Off the Shelf reviews really say that he's quite a prolific actor. But yeah, he steals the scenes whenever he comes in and acts creepy as fuck.
Absolutely.
Especially when he uses John's memories, fake memories, to find Emma on the waterfront, and he's just like, "I met my wife here, over by a ferry. That's how I met my husband. Small world." Just the way he speaks too. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a hive mentality, but the way they speak, they're very like, very like almost monotone, but calm and quiet.
Cal-
Very
I'd
cold
say
and
like,
calculating.
yeah, exactly.
Which makes it. And by the way, Mr. Book, that's a fucking main big boss if I ever saw one. His epic throwdown with John is by far one of the best highlights of the movie, especially so John like gets like new memories implanted into him so that he now has full control over his abilities, and he just epically just destroys the group or the strangers, and it's just this giant telekinetic fight. And then, oh, by the way, we forgot to mention the strangers. When we're not seeing them take control of human corpses, they look like weird, weird. I don't know what the hell they are, but they look like weird jellyfish creatures with spiral teeth, and it's very blatant ancient CGI. So that's one aspect of the movie that doesn't hold up, is that weird creature design. Kind of reminds me of something I saw in Mortal Kombat 1995.
Oh, a fucking reptile or whatever.
Close, damn near close, almost. Although I will say it's still better CGI than all of what the fuck Mortal Kombat Annihilation was. Let me tell you, this
I kind of want to see that movie.
don't do yourself a favor, spare yourself. Unless you want Brian Thompson to just go in your head and be like, "Earth is under attack, and it is glorious."
Too bad you will die.
That's mother, you're alive.
It looks
Man.
wonderful.
Oh, it's a horrible mess. The only good fight in that movie is between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. God damn it, I really want that new Mortal Kombat movie. Fucking release the trailer, god damn it. Going back to Mortal Kombat all over again. Okay. Before we get sidetracked though, overall, Jeff, what are your final impressions of Dark City?
I am very glad that I went into this movie completely blind. I was able to get uh, an immediate hook by the way the movie began, and as it continued, just getting introduced to the world, the mood, all the characters, and then learning the final revelations. It definitely left a very good impression on me, and I definitely want to watch it again.
For me, oh god, not the echo. Again. I hate my technical difficulties so much. Oh, there it goes.
I'm leaving that in, by
There's
the
my
way.
musical talents there, ladies and gentlemen. For me, it's a like I said, it's a very fascinating study on what makes us human and what is real and whatnot. I really enjoyed John's journey into trying to figure out what is the truth and what is not. I'm glad that he finally was able to get to Shell Beach, or at least create Shell Beach at the end. I'm glad that he gets to. I'm glad he gets to connect with Anna, aka Emma, because she gets new memories at the end. But spoilers, fucking again. But yeah, no, I really like how stylistically it looks. It's very much a noir film. It's more than just a science fiction film. I like the mystery trying to figure out again. The truth behind the Dark City. The twist is great. I just wish I had watched the director's cut instead. Fucking god damn it. I'm never gonna let that go. And then I really, the score is bombastic and incredible. I love it. The acting again is solid. The direction and writing alone are also on point here. But yeah, the cinematography is just breathtaking. Aside from like Jeff said, a miniature here and there, and some questionable CGI at tops. Like this is definitely a very underrated science fiction classic. I definitely think everyone should watch it. Um, in his review, Oliver Harper said that like if you're trying to find a movie to analyze for like a course or whatnot, this is a good movie to analyze because
Absolutely.
this movie is really good for multiple repeat viewings, and you always find something new every time. And I really like this interesting look into, like I said, what makes us human and whatnot. Like what is it that makes up a soul? Um, and as much as I appreciate The Matrix, I think Dark City does that a little better, even though The Matrix kind of elaborates on it more. But I like this approach just a little bit more because it offers. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love action. Action is one of my all-time favorite genres, and I love martial arts in movies and whatnot, but I think I like something like Dark City just a little tad more. I guess that's just my change in palette over the years or so. But yeah, Dark City. I think it, like I said, one of the all-time underrated science fiction classics, and I think everyone should check it out if they're really into watching that kind of stuff. But so yeah, dude. Yeah, another fine installment of this show. I think. How about you?
I would say uh, to anyone that listened this far, I'm sorry that we consumed an hour and 20 minutes of your life. No take backs. You're gonna have to live that for the rest of your life.
Oh my god. Well, in that case, I do appreciate you bearing with us here, and I hope you will join us again for our next installment, where we return to the Tremors franchise in Tremors 3 Back to Perfection. In the meantime, follow us on our socials, if we have socials, if you can find us. But other than that, folks, that's going to be it for this installment of Two Nerdskis and a Podcast. This is Eric.
This is Jeff.
And remember, stay shiny, everybody. Take it easy. Have a good one. Bye.
Next level. Next level. Next